The journey worth taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines, the path not taken and the forgotten angle. The journey within you, where you will listen to stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to the journey within you. I am so thrilled to have my dear friend, Candi George. Now, Candi, we met I think it was about 5 years ago. We're not real sure, maybe 6. And it was at a retreat that was put on by our team. So we're both with the same company. And I have to tell a little funny story, though, about that. I knew when we met, we connected more than just our company. We connected through Jesus Christ. And I could sense that you were a sister in the Lord. And it just was something that meant a lot to me. So, but one time, you know how dark it was there at night at the cabins? And we were trying to take the girls back to the other cabin. And we got lost. Do you remember? And we were driving and driving and driving. And we finally got to this place. You're like, I got to turn around. And so I jumped out of the car and I was trying to lead you to get you backed up. And I think we laughed forever on that because we couldn't find our way. It was so dark. And yes, on the mountain. Yeah. But we made it. Yeah. We finally did. But it was pretty funny just trying to make our way in the dark. And a lot of people do that, right? Without the light. And so that was something that came to my mind. But I just appreciate you again coming on here to say yes to my podcast. It means a lot to me to hear your story. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Laura. And it's such a privilege today to be on your podcast. And I love that you're following your calling. And I love that. So yes, Laura and I met at our company, our company has brought so many great friendships and people I would never have met, and they will be lifelong friends. And I'm so thankful for that. So I am a 48-year-old mom. Sometimes I still laugh at when I say my age.
Don't look it.
I don't feel that old. Oh, you're so sweet. But so I'm a mom of 2. I have a 19-year-old and a 19-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. Very great. I mean, not just saying this, but very great kids. I'm very thankful for them. As I always say, thank you, Jesus. So far, so good. So I am a preacher's daughter. I was born, as people say, I was
Sounds
born
familiar.
under the church pew, basically. My daddy, I love to tell this story when asked. My mother and my daddy went to the same high school, but my dad is 4 years older than her. So her brothers knew him. He played basketball. Of course, he's like 6'6". That's where I get my height from. But he played basketball, and so my parents met through her older brothers introducing them. And my mom was, we like to call her like little Polly Pentecostal. She was the good girl. She was the one that never was tempted in bad ways. There's just some people like that. They just seem so easy for them to live for God. And she had met this, he was the proverbial playboy, like
living
player, like, and she was like, there's no way. And so I don't want anything to do with him. And so he kind of had to go after her, which is so cute. Long story short in that, she actually prayed for him for several years. And then one day he actually called her and said, I want to go to church with you. So it's just so wonderful how that happened. And he said, I was just like, the good old Baptist boy that went on holidays basically to church. And he never had a relationship with God. And so once they got married and everything, my daddy just went headlong. I mean, just jumped all in to living for God. And it's so amazing how our steps are ordered. And so they had my brother kind of early on in the marriage. And my daddy, of course, was, he was feeling a
Mhm.
call of God on his life, and he fought it. And he tells the story, and I love hearing it. He fought it, and he, of course, was very active in church and stuff, but he was just like, like we do when God puts
Oh,
something on our
yeah.
heart, sometimes we fight it so much,
Resistance.
knowing what it requires. And so, yes. And so the story he tells where he actually accepted the call of God was my oldest brother, he's 9 years older than me. He was sick one night, and they did not, like, they did everything. They had called the doctor, and he, was telling them what to
Mhm.
do. Of course, this is like
Mhm.
58 years old, 58 years ago. And so my dad said, I was praying and I was praying for him, and he just would not get better. And he said, I went in a room and I got on my knees, and it makes me cry. He said, I told God, okay, I give up. I give up. I will do what you say. I will go where you want me to go. And my brother literally sat up in the bed and started playing, and
Mm.
nothing
Mm.
was wrong with him from then
Yes.
on. And and so that is that's the beginning of basically like my journey as far as he moved to
Mhm.
Louisiana from Birmingham, Alabama. Moved to Louisiana, took an assistant pastor job, and
Oh.
we still have lifelong friends there. And then they moved to Mississippi, and they took a church. And my second brother above me, he was
Mhm.
born in Starkville, Mississippi. And then my dad left the South and went to
Wow.
Kansas and took a church. I know. And
Mhm.
I am the third child. I was born there. And then 11 months
Oh. So how
later,
many
boom,
sister
my
and
sister
brothers?
came to be.
Okay.
So there's four of us, and two boys, two girls. And so, yeah, and he was pastoring in Kansas. And of course, I always say that it was like 3 years, the first 3 years of my life. So
Mhm.
I don't really remember it that much. But then we went to South Texas, and I do remember that. And he pastored there for 3 years. And my daddy always took churches that were either they had had a split, or they were
Mhm.
in need of a
Mhm.
pastor, and they were small. So of course people really don't you know. So anyway, as a preacher's daughter, it is such a blessing. And I tell everybody, there's so many people that try to act like being a preacher's kid is just a terrible thing. I will honestly say
Right.
probably it is definitely what shaped me. It's definitely what shaped me into who I am. And I see that already in my children as they are becoming young adults, because of
Mhm.
what I went
Mhm.
through. I share all of that journey with my children. But my mother, um, she was my daddy they wanted him to be full time, but when they're small churches, you can't
Right.
always
You have to
be a
work
full
too.
time pastor. And so my dad would right, and so my dad would take jobs. And after we left Texas,
Mhm.
we went to Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And I always say from then on, life
Yes.
was good
Yes.
because we were back in the South and we were on the
Oh.
coast. And so my mother always, she would try to work. Um, she would try to work and
Mhm.
support him. And she worked in nursing, and she would, in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, she was actually a teacher's aide. She took time off, and she
Mhm.
wanted to be with us while we were in elementary
Oh.
school, and she became a teacher's aide. And I remember that, and that was so wonderful. She always, would
Mhm.
be home with us in afternoons and stuff. And then as we got older, she went back into nursing. And one thing that I always tell people, I saw my mother back in that day and time. It was more, women really relied, it seemed like, on the man for everything,
Right.
which there's nothing wrong with that. But my mother was a
Mhm.
strong, independent woman. As far as she was a pastor's wife, I saw her
Mm.
pour into
Mhm.
people all the
Mhm.
time. I mean, you can imagine. And And we moved to Fairhope, Alabama, which is, to me, I call that my hometown because I spent
Oh,
all
yeah.
of my
Vital time.
preteen and teen
That's,
years there.
yeah.
She worked all the time. And as a pastor's wife, working in nursing, she did it so
Oh.
that my daddy could be full time in the ministry. And as our church grew, it was great, that it was growing, and I remember
Mm-hmm.
seeing it just grow and stuff like that. And the thing though that stood out, and I know that I tell her thank you all the time, and I already see it in my 14-year-old, is that
Mm-hmm.
confidence and that independence and the leadership. And like my mom just, I remember, like, she would come home and tell us the
Oh.
people that she ministered to on her job, and the people that, and she truly called
Mm-hmm.
nursing,
Her mission
it was a
field.
calling
Mm-hmm.
for her.
Yep.
She said, so,
Yep.
yes, so
Yep.
many people show up for checks. And she said it never was about that. It was about serving others. And it's so neat that she was a pastor's wife and, of course, full servanthood. And then she was also being in nursing, she
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
serving. And I saw that. And I thank her and God so much that there is so much about what she did and how she lived her life before me, but always being there for my
Mm-hmm.
dad and always supporting him, that
Mm-hmm.
has made me the strong woman that I am. And that's
Definitely.
such a blessing. And then, as a preacher's kid, like I said, so many people, they discount it, but Laura, it was honestly like just loving on people. Seeing my dad and mom, they never looked at it as a,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like, a burden. they
Mm-hmm.
they just loved pouring into people, and I know that
Mm-hmm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
my gift is encouragement. We're supposed to know our gifts, and people, of course, will say, God, you just
Mm-hmm.
know how to just encourage me, you know how to say what I need to hear. And I'm so thankful for that, because I get that honestly from both of my parents, because they've always been ones to love people and pour into people. And my daddy always, it was so cute. He always would, they both love to send
Oh.
cards to people, call
Yeah.
people, still do it. My daddy's 82 and my mother is 74, 75, and they
That's
send
awesome.
cards to
That's
people
awesome.
and still
And,
call
that means
people.
so much to the people that get
Which is
them. You know, that's just such an impact. I love the fact that we
right.
have so much in common here, because I was listening, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I remember those days. I'm a preacher's kid. And I remember, I think I didn't get in trouble.
Oh,
The same thing. I think I lived in more fear of what it would do to my daddy. And I did not want to hurt my father. And so
yeah.
I didn't get out there and do all the crazy things, and that teenagers would do growing up. And I loved church. I loved being a part. I was the only child till probably about my middle school year, and we adopted my brother, and there's 9 years between us. And so I love the impact they put in my life too, as to be an encourager, because my mom was always giving. She was a servant. And so I can relate to that so much. And
Yeah.
I loved being a preacher's kid. I still do. I mean, it was a beautiful part of my life.
Yes. Yeah, and it's really funny that, you know, I would, in my teens, in my late teens, people would say stuff like, they would ask me, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you gonna marry a
Mm-hmm.
preacher? Like, they just
Mm-hmm.
automatically assume you're gonna marry a preacher. Just like my two brothers, everyone
Mm-hmm.
assumed that
Mm-hmm.
they would be a pastor, you know. And my dad always told us this, and I loved it so much, because he
That's
literally
good.
took off the pressure from us
Mm-hmm.
that society puts on us. He always said to my brothers, I would rather you
Mm-hmm.
be faithful in a local church and involved in whatever ministry you're called to than any time
Mm-hmm.
ever being me calling you, because we all know,
It
if a
will
man
never
is
make
man
it.
called,
Right.
they're
You'll
not
be
going to do it
miserable.
with purpose. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to. Yeah, they're not going to do it with passion. And what's so sad is nowadays we literally see people that go to school, to be a pastor or a minister, and it's so sad because a lot of people now
Mhm.
look at it
Mhm.
as a way to make money. And
Yeah.
honey, back in the day when, you know, my daddy was a pastor, honey, there
Mm-mm.
was
Mm-mm.
no lucrative.
It
It was not
my
all
dad was
about that,
selling his
you know?
cameras to get me a
And
stereo. He was never we were never about the money. When we got the brand new car, it was a big celebration because we had always driven used cars and we lived within our means and, we cooked at
yes.
home. We didn't go out to eat every weekend and all those things. And yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
McDonald's was a treat because
Yep.
we were a family of six. And so that was like a treat after church,
Mhm.
one night to go
Mhm.
out to eat once a month or something. I mean, you didn't do it, but, and my daddy was the same way, very, very good with the money and everything. And also, my daddy's heart was foreign missions, and he supported every single missionary that came through, because he just
Mhm.
loved, foreign missions, and he just really supported any type of, ministry that needed help. He was big on. He had such a big heart, and still does such a big heart for people. So
Yeah.
sometimes you can
Yeah.
get taken advantage of, and I remember sometimes as this, we grew up, the we became teenagers, my siblings and I, we would be like, Dad,
Mhm.
you need to dial it
Mhm.
back because we see that person
Right,
and
right,
we
because
know
he
what they're
just wanted to
doing,
help everybody. That's
We-
my father is in foreign missions too, and he's taken many
yeah.
trips overseas to the different countries, and so that's cool. I love that we got that in common too. He loves the foreign mission, and he's had many trips,
I
and he
love,
just talks about that all the time because it was something that was a big part of his life. He is 81 or 82 this year too. Um, yeah, he's been in the ministry
oh,
59 years. I want to say I'm probably going to get it wrong because I'm not good with numbers. But anyway, he's been in a long time. And this church that he's at now was the same thing like your father. It was just to go be an internship to help them get back on their feet after their pastor left. Well, now he's been there almost 20 years. I mean, he didn't leave. It's sweetest, sweetest
oh,
church. I mean,
wow.
it's just where he's supposed to be. Yeah.
I love that. Well, my daddy, I mean, until he went, like, we all left, Fairhope in 1993, and
Mm-hmm.
came back to Birmingham because he felt a call. A friend of his was starting a new church, and my dad's heart, being that this is his home, he had always really wanted to have a church here or to be a part of a church. And so in 93, kicking and screaming,
Mm-hmm.
we kids packed up and headed up
Mm-hmm.
here because we loved Birmingham because all our relatives,
Right,
like I
right.
said, mom and dad, were born and raised here. They were here and everything, but it was fun to visit. But when you live in Fairhope, Alabama, that is the most gorgeous
That
place
was
on Mobile
home.
Bay. I
Yeah.
mean, near the beach. Yeah, I mean, I was 25 minutes from Gulf
Mm-hmm.
Shores. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who wanted to leave that? But it's just really crazy how, God orchestrates things. And he brought us all back here. At one time, my siblings were all here. And it's so funny because now I am the only
That stayed.
one out of my immediate family that still lives here. Yeah, because
Oh.
I married a Birmingham boy and he was not going to leave. And and I tell my children now because my sister and my parents, my sister lives in Baton
Uh-huh.
Rouge, Louisiana, and my
I
parents
lived
do
in Baton
too,
Rouge.
and my older
We had a
brother.
mission in Baton
And
Rouge. Yes, we did. We used to live in New Orleans and we took
really
the ferry over. And yeah, that's just too funny. We did. We had
mhm,
a.
was
Go ahead.
very
No, go ahead.
well. And so, oh, I'm sorry. And so, it's funny because I tell my children that it's really neat that, my family all left, and I just, I get emotional. You see how
Mm-hmm.
God's hand is in everything because I never would have thought that I would have lived anywhere
Mm-hmm.
in the area of, I mean, of
Mm-hmm.
Birmingham. That just wasn't like what I wanted. But I mean, I tell my children now, I'm like, your roots started
Mm-hmm.
here with your mama and papa, but now you have your own roots here. You have our church that we're a part of. And it's so amazing to see my 19-year-old um,
Mm-hmm.
he has a special call of God on his life, and he has been ministering and been asked to minister in different youth functions. And he got to actually be one of the two speakers out of all of the church camp in down in
Mm-hmm.
Troy,
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. They have one for the whole state. And this past summer, he was asked to speak during the day
Oh.
session, and it was just so amazing to people were sending me pictures and texting me and telling me what a great job he did. And it's so neat too because he
Mm.
reminds me so much of my daddy, and the things that he just his mannerisms and the way that he speaks. And so it's really neat. And I love that my dad,
Nice.
he goes to my dad for guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's this full circle. And so and like I tell them all the time, you're not preacher's
Mm-hmm.
kids, but you're
Mm-hmm.
preacher's grandkids, and you're raised to be aware of what it's like to be a preacher's kid. And I honestly think that my children, they look up and respect the
Mm-hmm.
ministry
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
because of that. Just growing up hearing that, and my dad and mom have always poured into them. And when people comment how well they behave, or they have such sweet spirits, or someone messaged me the other day, my kids were in her church all weekend, the pastor's wife, they were visiting friends, and she said,
Oh.
you should be godly proud of them. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, I am. And I said, I tell them all the time, your grandma and grandpa, as far as
Mm-hmm.
that's my mom and my mama's mom and dad, your grandma and grandpa were first generation, but you
Mm-hmm.
guys now are fourth generation. And I said, that is such a special thing. That is like, that's a mantle to hold up, but not in a bad way, but such
Oh,
a blessing
definitely.
to
To
look
carry
at your
on the legacy.
heritage. Like, thank yes, and that they both
Mm-hmm.
love
Mm-hmm.
being involved in church and all of the things of ministry. Yeah, I mean, it makes you just get to it's nice to get in a moment of parenting where you now can look and
Mm-hmm.
be like,
Look what
wow,
we
like,
have
thank you,
done.
Jesus,
And they're
And well, yeah, it's
mm-hmm.
like your mama and papa's prayers that,
Mm-hmm.
help me to be who I am.
Yeah.
And very thankful for that. And I actually really have, recently started having a
Mm.
heart for pastors' wives and young pastors' wives. And, just that's like my new thing is I have a heart for that. I want to encourage them. I want to, because like I was telling a friend today, no one knows what a pastor's wife
Oh,
goes
tell me
through
about it
like a
because there's so
daughter
many
of a
things
pastor's
that
wife.
everybody thinks it's so easy and and we had so many ups and downs and some hard times and some it was sad some days, and then to see the light too of the happiness and the goodness. But yeah, that's a great calling, Candy. I mean, it's so needed because it's a struggle and a lot of times they feel alone. They don't feel like anybody understands what we're going through.
Right. Right. And I just, the thing is, I just want, I want them to know, hey, you're not alone and you're
Right.
not expected to be
Right.
perfect. Like, we don't expect that. Because, and I know that you see this a lot in social media now and you hear it and podcasts and all that, but how people are like, we need to be real, we need to be genuine and quit the fakeness. And I say this all the time. My thing is, I think I'm so real sometimes to
Yeah, I
my
mean,
detriment.
authentic is the word,
And
right?
so,
Authentic. We need to be authentic. And I mean, I want
yes,
people to know that when you see me on
yes,
Facebook, that's who I am. When you see me on the street, you're going to know me because I'm not going to be two different people. I mean, this is who I am. And I may share more than you
right,
want to hear some days. And that's just how it is. But being authentic is something we all need to be. It just it's the thing to do. I mean, it's the right thing to do.
well, and as you know, being authentic, I get more messages from
Mhm.
people, even in our business. even on a personal level, that through in
Mhm.
February will be 9 years that I've been with the
That
company,
is.
and it's just crazy next month. But I have gotten messages through the years from people that not even a part of my
Mhm.
company, but
Mhm.
they've watched me on Facebook or just social media, and they'll say, I
Mhm.
just want to tell you thank you
Mhm.
for being real, for being genuine. Like, you give me your highs, your lows. You tell me that, yeah, I ate
Mhm.
way too much sugar, I ate too much junk,
Right.
but hey, I'm out here working out. You know what I'm saying? Like, people relate to people that are authentic, and the world is
Yeah.
hungry for authentic people.
Well, I
Like,
think
we just want
integrity
real.
too. I mean,
And
that
I
is big because I don't want somebody thinking
Yes.
that I'm saying one thing and doing another. So integrity is huge in my part. And for me, as with anybody, I want to see integrity. So that's one of my core beliefs. Integrity is so important that we
Mm-hmm.
are real with people and they can trust us.
Absolutely.
Trust is an issue nowadays, being able to trust people. But I
Oh,
just
yeah.
love that you are doing that and you're listening to God and his calling and you're following the steps. I know there's some other things that you have a heart's desire to do, and I'll be praying over that for you. I know that he will give you the tools to do that.
Yeah.
Um, you'll do it scared like I do. You just show up, and the biggest word
Yeah.
that I love Brooke Hemingway, and she's my mentor and coach, and she'll say take action. You cannot do anything
Yeah.
unless you take action, and don't expect it. You've got to take action. So that's what I'm doing. In December, I claimed it. I said, I've had this podcast a year this month. And when I started, I thought I was going to do all this and that. And then I just kind of dwindled away. I got nervous. I thought, well, who am I trying to do a podcast?
Yeah.
And so I was like, this past December, I said, okay, Lord, it's time for us to have that one on one. I need to know direction and what I need to do with this. And I knew my heart was in wanting to share other people's stories because I know they're going to impact others. And that's my purpose, is to impact others. And so
Right.
the journey within you was something I came to when I took my training in becoming a professional life coach and professional wellness coach, and that just resonated with me. The journey within you, we all are on a journey, and we've got so
I
much
love it.
of that needs to be shared. And some people don't think their journey is important until they share it, and when you hear it in their voice, you're like, see what it means to someone. It's gonna touch someone, I promise
Yeah.
you. So I just want to thank you today for taking the time to come on and share your journey. It sounds like it was a blessing. I know there was probably struggles, like any family. We have our ups and
Yes.
downs, but that you appreciate from where you came from, and that you respect where you came from.
Yes.
Respecting your parents and still today telling them thank you. I tell my dad too. My mom has since passed,
Yeah.
but I tell my dad, I am because of you. You taught me so much. And I'm so
Absolutely.
thankful for that too. I love being a preacher's kid. Well, we
Yes,
will
absolutely.
come back around. I know there's going to be another story to tell, so I'll probably ask you again at some point. But I just thank you again, Candy, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.